So to start off, just standing comfortably, and the basics, you want to have your feet hip width apart and move towards the postures that we want, sort of ease into them. And remember, this is not in a way not a fixed thing, because obviously as we start to do Tai Chi and related art, there is a process of change taking place. Feet are directly below your hips, so that you've got the support from your feet for your hips, and from your hips for your shoulders. Your weight just a little bit forwards, and just allowing your hips to drop back, so a slight curve in your knees, not a deep posture, not bending the knees up a great deal. An overall feeling of just settling. And that's a physical sensation, but also because we're beginning to pay attention to our body, there's a kind of gathering, a settling of our thoughts, and becoming familiar with the feeling of this posture, as well as with what we might think of as the technical side, is actually really useful. So, you know, as the posture develops, I often describe it as being spacious, and we always use the term rooted and so on and so forth. But your own experience of the posture is also important. And so we can come up with our own labels in a way, so that we can then recall the label and everything associated with it. And this is something that we can take out of the session with us. It's not to say the technical side isn't important, but obviously, you know, if you're walking down the road or waiting for a bus or something like that, you're not going to sort of spend a long time refining your posture, but just the intention to sort of bring out the qualities that you associate with that name, that an image, perhaps, however you choose to do that, can actually help to bring about a very subtle change. So in this posture, just turning in the center of your body, feeling the movement going up through your body, arms just swinging around. What we often find as we go through the exercise, what I often find going through the exercises, is you start off, you've got the posture, and you get into the movements, and after a while you realise you've lost some aspects of the posture. And again, sometimes there's a case to be made for kind of an analysis, an understanding of the posture, physically checking your posture. Other times, just a kind of reminder, this is how it can feel. This is what we're looking for. Can actually be quite effective. I'm not saying that one is better than another, and sometimes we might think, oh, this is how I want to feel. It doesn't quite work, and that's when we'd come back to the technical side. But there are certain qualities that we begin to associate and look for and have an intention to cultivate that run through all of the movements. So, for instance, just try this very gently. I'll exaggerate a little bit. I'll pull my knees back so they begin to lock up. Just try doing that and feel the effect it has on your whole body. What I feel as I do this is my whole body sort of locks up, and that restricts the movement. And so when I feel that, say, my shoulders are a bit tight or something like that, I want to be able to have it just that gentle releasing in hips and knees. And sometimes, again, that will allow the body to open up and to release some of the tightness. It would be nice to think we never lost this, but of course, in practical terms, we did. So, with time and practice, certain things about the underlying qualities of the movements begin to sort of surface for us in our daily lives. I like the term spacious. I like to think of it in that way, because we're allowing space for movement. We're not fighting against our own bodies just to move. This means that we have the mechanical movement, joints like your hips and your shoulders are freer to move. We can also think in terms of what we might call a metabolic movement, breathing, digestion, the beating of your heart, digestion, so that circulation, and so on and so forth. Many metabolic processes involve movement, if not all of them, certainly a lot of them. And gradually a sense of a kind of more subtle quality of movement, connecting the body, the patterns of movement, patterns of expansion and contraction, that lead us into a sense of the energy of the movement. And one of the things that we're looking for as an outcome in these practices is that all these movements become less strained, more harmonious, more flowing. You may notice a sense of rhythm building. And you find that your body will slip into a rhythm that your body resonates to. And that resonance shows us how the body connects, the sort of vibration, if you like. And again, this is an aspect of the energy that so remember, all of this started with an awareness of posture, and that awareness leading to an ability to just gently adjust posture. But it has to take place over a period of time. Although these are quite subtle changes, they actually have quite a profound effect on the body. You may notice your legs beginning to ache, for instance, because by dropping the weight down, we're asking our legs to work harder, and so on and so forth. Nothing should be forced. Nothing should be done in a hurry. So if you're doing this, and the ache in your legs becomes really distracting, just stop. Give your legs a shake. Go back into the movement. There is, of course, in the practice, a time and a place to sort of push a little bit further, but you have to decide whether it's appropriate at the moment. And people experienced in these practices, I would really recommend that when you practice, or right now, have a sense of what would be most appropriate for you. You may well have, and I think it's good to have, sort of long-term aims, things that you want to develop and to get better at. I think that's an important part of development in these arts, but it might not be what's required now. And that should be your first sort of aim. To if you feel a bit tired, then the flow of the movement, the energizing aspects of the movement. If you're feeling a bit tight, looking for that looseness, and so on and so forth. And that reflection is aided, I think, in a movement like this, because it's so very simple. So it's easier than with some of the more complex exercises to kind of go beneath the surface of what's happening a little bit. Turning your hands palm up, just raising your arms a little. Notice that my elbows are hanging down. Sometimes holding the arms in a fixed position like this, it's easier to feel how the turning in your center is moving your arms for you. So just noting the sensation of movement in your arms. Try not to stiffen up in the muscles of your arms and shoulders. So you feel this sort of fluidity within the muscles and the soft tissue of your arms. Let your hands drop down. Take a step forwards, back foot turned out a little bit. Same sort of idea, but now you're introducing the aspect of your weight moving. it's almost like a kind of bouncing movement from foot to foot. Imagine doing this on a trampoline or a bouncy castle. It's not a long step, it's not a huge stride, not too short. You don't want it right in here. You want enough room to register this. And this dynamic of your weight moving and the sense of moving from the ground is a major source of energy in Tai Chi. There's always any number of energetic actions taking place in your body. Breathing brings energy into your body. The food you eat gives you energy, and so on and so forth. And all of those are significant. But this kinetic energy of moving from the ground is very much a feature in these arts. And as you move, because your feet are at slightly different angles, once again, it encourages this turning in the center, and that leads up into your shoulders, down into your arms, hands again. The phrase used in Tai Chi, the movement is rooted in the feet, transmitted through your legs, directed and guided through the center of your body, expressed in your upper body and arms. Change over. So these opening exercises, as well as being a physical warm-up, and that's important, actually help us to get a feel for things that will be going on in the slower movements. That sometimes because they're slower, a little less obvious, it's kind of easier to pick up on the rhythm, I think, when we're moving a little bit faster. Easier to pick up on the flow, the momentum of the energy when we're moving slowly. So the awareness that we build here can help to find those qualities in the slower exercises. And shake it. So looking a little bit more at the posture, this is an ongoing process in Tai Chi. In over 40 years, I've never got to a point where I've been thinking, hey, I don't need to think about posture anymore. Starting with your feet again, hip width apart. And that can be measured from the outside of your foot, the middle of your foot, or the inside of your foot, depending on what suits you. All of these are found in the Tai Chi system, and it needs to be appropriate for our particular body structure. Toes can point forwards, or again, they slightly turned out, but try not to have them splayed out like that. And just begin to gently roll your weight forwards and backwards in the feet. Your body pivots from your ankles. So don't bend your body, don't nod your head forward, bend in your hips. Imagine, I'll show you with this pole. So if I were to take this pole and to do this, then in theory, what I could do is eventually find a position for the pole where it wouldn't do that. Obviously, that's quite difficult. But if you can imagine that pole going up to the middle of the body, this is what's happening in this exercise. So feel where you begin to find that alignment with the pull of gravity, and recognizing that on its own, this is not enough. If I were to go back to the pole on its own, if I were to attach guy ropes to it like you would to a tent, that would help to support the pole, and the pole would help to support the guy ropes. So muscles, tendons, other soft tissue in the body, like your fascia, are a bit like the skin and the guy ropes of the tent, interacting with the skeleton and that central part of your body. And between them, we eventually just come to rest. Ideally, you can just have your weight a little bit forwards, a little bit more weight in the front of your feet, if it's not like that anyway. And to correct that sense of just tilting forwards, don't pull your shoulders back, let your hips just drop back. Again, that feeling of settling. So it's this releasing feeling in our hips that allows our center of gravity to drop. Chinese term Zhongding translates as central equilibrium. And the qualities of this posture, once again, however we experience them, are the things that we're trying to cultivate through the different exercises. Try and keep this kind of in the back of your mind. So from this position, and again, I'll come forward a bit and exaggerate a little bit, but don't move too far. Go easy on your knees. Just letting your hips drop back a little bit more, letting gravity pull you down. And once again, feeling that at a certain point, like you're on a trampoline, you get pushed up. So gravity draws you down, and the resilience, the springiness in your legs and the ground beneath your feet pushes you up. Once again, we have this, what I've described as the kinetic cycle, a cycle of movement, a cycle of energy. And in the first few exercises, we do this quite a big dropping down and push up in the hips, relatively speaking. In some of the later exercises, the hips just hang back because we want to feel that this is happening not just through the dropping of the hips, but there's a sense of allowing gravity to flow down through our body without restriction until we feel the counter movement, the push up. Body expanding, contracting, again, trying to let that settle into a nice steady rhythm. Probably spend a lot longer on this, but it's worth coming back to in your own time. This time, as you sink down, bring the hands around as though you're cradling the ball. And as you push up, that movement pushes your elbows out, turn your hands, sink down, as though you're pressing the ball down into the top. So the main feature of this, the ones I've just described, your center of gravity dropping. This offers you greater stability and means that you're carrying less weight in the upper part of your body. So that helps with that sense of spaciousness and movement. And as we get used to it again, that awareness of how yielding to the pull of gravity initiates this cycle of movement downwards, and then just feeling the rise and expanding energy coming up, finally moving your arms. The image of moving through water aids this process. It encourages a softening in the joints and the muscles of the body, contributes to the flow of the movement. It also has a conditioning quality, a strengthening quality to it. Now, with that same action, turning your hands out, so fingers point away from your body, expanding movement, pushing your arms to the side, and they swing up quite smoothly. This is the wild goose. So again, the name of the movement and the image that we might associate with that may lend qualities of smoothness of movement, a strength of movement. And it's always interesting, I think, in Tai Chi to recognize how influential these images can be for us. But if an image isn't useful to you, don't chase after it. Don't feel you've somehow failed. Not every image is going to work for you. Always recognizing that all of these details, whether it be the technical, physical details, the awareness of the patterns of movement, the energy, the imagery, are also ways in which we gather our attention, we center our attention. So this quality of stillness is also very much a presence in the movements. And then letting your hands drop down, cross in front of your belly, pushing up, parting the clouds, a lovely sort of expansive opening feeling, not a stretch. One more time. Dropping down again, letting your hands drop to your sides, and this time focusing on one side of your body, movement upwards, pushing your elbow out, drawing your fingers up. At the top of the movement, winding around, where you're plucking something off the tree. And down. Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Then shift your attention to the opposite side. Take your time, changing over from one side to another. One more time. And just stand with them. Shake hands. Next couple of movements, we don't go up and down in the same way, but we do want to try and maintain this slight sense of dropping back, and a posture that again allows that sense of circulation within the body. We're trying not to strain against the pull of gravity. So it's a major cause of tension and tightness, this feeling that we always have to somehow push ourselves up, but fight against it. By coming into line with the pull of gravity, by allowing our center of gravity to drop, we start to change that. Rather than feeling we have to strain, be upright, we feel more held by the posture, and so on and so forth. So again, feet hip width apart, hips dropping back, bringing your hands down. So the inside of your hand or your arm just lightly touches the outside of your hips. And from there, pushing up, so you're under a low ceiling, just pressing the palms of your hands against the ceiling. Back down, taking that extra moment just to come back to that starting position. So not in a hurry. And then lifting again, but this time pushing sideways. Notice the arms rotate out and you turn in the center of your body to direct the arms and come back once again, touch it. Turn the other way and back. And then facing forwards and pushing out. So pushing in four directions and recognizing the significance of this central part of the body between hips and waist, how it guides the movement, but also how, in a sense, the expansion comes from there, downward into the ground, upward into the upper body. It's here we want to just allow that sense of dropping. And then we push out again, coming back taking just a very short moment to once again release in the hips in the other direction and back. Notice it can be quite difficult just to take that moment too. And then pushing out. When we do this in this way, we just take that extra moment to settle. We're also training our minds, not in our nervous system, into recognizing the center part of the body almost as the place of resting for the body. Just for a moment, that little break in the rush of thoughts or the urge to sort of get on with things. And again, this is something that we can begin to take with us out of practice into our daily life. Those moments, frustration and moments when we're feeling perhaps a bit overwhelmed by something or whatever, just learning that there is this place we can bring our attention to, the center of our body, and there down into the ground, where we just break that cycle of rushing, strenuous activity, just for a moment. Remember that you're moving through water. This time, hands come in, you let them drop down. And again, focusing on one side, the expansion, pushing your arm away, palm facing out just a little bit. Let your arm swing up until it's in line with your nose and your navel, straight down that central line. It's called circling palms. You could imagine you're standing beneath the archway of an old door in a church or something like that. Just sliding the palm of your hand around the inside of the arch. This time, when you reach top of the movement, turn just a little bit. And yeah. And then changing sides. And Okay, now, from the standing position, once you're going to come closer to the camera so you can see. Now, do what I said not to do before, but just push your hips back a little bit so your pelvis tilts, and then let gravity pull your hips back down. So gravity helps you come to the upright position. Again, if I do this with the fold, this is not a back bend. So here, if I push back, you can see the line from my shoulder to my hip stays more or less straight. I say more or less because we shouldn't be rigid about this. But what I don't want to do is say this, for instance. Drop down a little bit as you do this. Be careful with your knees and your back. This and the next one are quite strong exercises. As you drop down, it means your head and shoulders go forwards. So there's a lengthening through your back and your spine. And then you let your hips drop back and push up. Note this movement back into the upright stance. We often have the habit of straining our back, shoulders, our neck to come upright. Notice whether you're doing that and try and move away from that and work on this idea of just allowing gravity to pull your hips down. So we start to come into that upright position very smoothly, again with that sense of spaciousness or whatever qualities you recognized at the beginning of the class. And again, recognizing huge significance of the center of the body. It's a vertical rotation, isn't it? You know, the pelvis tilts. And obviously it's not going to go all the way around, but then it rotates back to the level. So again, center of the body and our awareness of what's going on there. Really important. This time, as you push up, your arms following, you're pushing out, and then you get swung forwards. This is called rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. I'm trying to do this quite big so that you can get a sense for the choreography, the mechanics of the movement. But that doesn't mean that you have to go this far. It could be quite a small movement. And don't think that that's somehow copping out, cheating. But often the smaller movements are the more interesting ones and sometimes the more difficult ones. So it's not just about big movements. It is nice though to feel that you can maybe just get that sense of extension a little bit more through your back, but again, nothing should be forced. Listen to your body. Begin to get a sense for what is appropriate at this point in time. Then using that same idea, but combining it with the horizontal rotation, and then bringing your hands to position in front of your belly, turn, push your hips back so your hands are pushed forwards, swinging across, your hips drop down, turn back to them. And then change direction. Extending out now through your hands and your fingers in the back so you can see what my hips are doing. Again, exaggerated, polishing the table. Your arms and your hands drawn around a nice smooth circle. One more time. And then stack. Shake out. So being centered in Tai Chi is not an image or a metaphor, we are literally moving from the center, moving from the ground in that sense. So the center part of your body dropping towards the ground, the center part of your body that we learn to focus our attention and our intention through. And this is an ongoing process in Tai Chi. The ideas are very simple, but we need to practice to keep making them work. Many of them, in a way, go against a lot of the habitual ways that we have of moving and standing. Have a slightly wider stance, and you can have the feet turned out a little bit more now. And begin to move your weight from one foot to another. You're going to about 60% of your weight in the supporting leg. So it's not a big movement. This is why we have the feet a little bit wider. And again, giving yourself this time a little bit of time, releasing your hip and knee, feeling your weight dropping, feeling the push up from the ground through your leg, and directing that into the empty leg. Then same thing in the other direction. So it's almost like being in the sea and waiting for a wave to pick you up and carry you in to the shore. As you settle into your left leg, turn a little bit. As you settle into your right leg, turn. Again, if I show you this with the pole, so imagine this going up through the middle of my body, it moves across a little bit, and when I turn, I'm turning around that pole just as we were before, and then I move across to the other side and I turn around that pole. Try not to lean over. It doesn't have to be a big turn. The center of the body, that area that I've been talking about, is sometimes described as being like the hub of a wheel. If you think about something like a bicycle wheel, that the hub has all the spokes attached to it, and the spokes radiate out to the rim of the wheel. And if you turn the hub just a little bit, then at the other end, the spokes will move further. So the range of the movement builds, so we don't have to sort of twist around a lot. And if I turn too far, I can throw my posture up here. So again, have in mind the feel of the posture and trying to just maintain that. And once again, not being fanatical about going for bigger movements. Our range of movement will increase over a period of time. And that's, there's a degree of physical conditioning involved in that. So you don't want to hurry that process. One way, though, that we can get a bit more movement. So, for instance, if you go into your right foot, you turn, you push your left knee forward so your heel comes up. And that allows a bit more movement across and a bit more rotation. You place the heel, go across, turn, push the right knee forward. So now you're probably getting a little bit more than that 60% of your weight going into each leg. Maybe a greater range of movement in the turn. Bring your hands again, slightly touching the center, getting a sense for how when we move the weight, we turn in the center of the body, there's movement in the arms, the center of the body directing that movement. And then this time, as you push from your right foot, you go into the left, use that movement so your hip is pushing your elbow out, your arm swings up, turns palm down, back down. This is hitting the ball in front of the shoulder, expanding in the left side of your body, and turn the hands and across, expanding in the right side of your body. That sensation being quite similar to the one we experience in Dragon Plucks the Stars from the Sky, for instance. So we have this steady dynamic coming from feet and legs through the center, and then a growing variety of patterns of expansion and contraction, depending on the movement through the whole of the upper body and into our arms. People with a little bit more experience in these arts, we can learn to bring an intentionality to those changing patterns. So more and more the tendency in Tai Chi and Qigong is for the movement to come from within the body out into the outer regions, particularly the arms. The starting point is the opposite way round. But these movements become more and more internalized. It's not that the outer movements aren't important, but it's how they're developed. And this is a very dynamic idea. It's hitting the ball in front of the shoulder. And we can begin to appreciate that all the kind of qualities of softness, of releasing, the quietness of the mind, the stillness of the mind, there is also a very important strengthening dynamic quality here. It's hard to say that Tai Chi is one thing or another. It's the blending of these things that often seem quite contradictory. And we're trying to look for harmony between those opposites so that they don't work against each other, but actually support each other. The stillness supports the movement. The releasing of tightness in the body allows more of the body to engage and brings a sense of conditioning to subtle areas of the body physically and energetically. The awareness and the intentionality that we bring to the movements enhances the movements. And yet, at the same time, an awareness of the movements really helps with that sense of gathering, quieting and settling our minds. Okay, and we'll just shake hands. The generic terms for these opposites, well, the generic term is one term really, yin yang. And we might say that yang is expansion, yin is contraction. Yin might be sinking to the ground. Yang might be that rising energy that comes from that. And the Tai Chi circle, the yin yang circle, shows the sense of dynamic harmony that exists between these two. Very simplistic terms. You sort of ball up into the air and then it comes down. It hits the ground and it bounces up. If it didn't drop down and hit the ground, there wouldn't be a bounce up. And so on and so forth. So this pervades the whole art. Now, changing the stance, turn your left foot out, step forward with the right. This forward stance again. This should be roughly square in dimensions. Hip width and about the same in length, maybe a little bit longer, with your feet on the diagonal corners of the square. And once again, beginning to move the weight. Giving yourself time to settle in each foot, to feel that push up. The weight transfer is I was going to say it's an everyday action. It's not quite every moment, but it's close to that. Anytime we move across the room, to the kitchen, down the road, we're transferring the weight. So it's worth paying a little bit of attention to how that works, because it's a key part of our stability and our mobility. And we want to be clear on this. We want the weight to go into the foot each time. What I don't want to do is say, on my back foot, extend my weight over there, because then I'm going to fall over. So this is a really important exercise for our general stability and mobility. Coming back, settling into your back foot, raise the front toes. So like when we raised the heel before, a little bit more of your weight settles in to that back foot. And have the front foot turned out slightly a bit. Let's go forward, push the back knee forward. Once again, the heel coming up, and you settle down into the leg. Remember, you want to keep an upright position. You may find that you start to lean a little bit. If you do, remember to come to the upright position again. It's not a question of straining in our back or our shoulders. That would tend to make us top heavy. But if, say, I realise that I'm leaning forwards here, this is probably a bit exaggerated. I don't want to do this. I want to do this. I want to let the hips drop. And then just step in, bring your foot in. When you push the foot back, position the foot, put the ball of the foot down, lower your heel, gently press the foot into the floor. You plant the foot, come back, raise the toes, pull in. When you step forward, it's your heel goes down, then the ball of the foot. In this gentle planting process, as though you've just put a sapling or a seedling into a pot. And what you're going to do is you're going to gently press the earth down so that we feel a very firm but soft contact with the ground. We're not stomping forwards. It's almost like you're walking on thin ice. You're going to place the foot and then just gently push to make sure the ice will bear your weight. Or like walking in the sea and making sure that you've got a good footing before you move, so the currents and the waves don't knock you over. And then change over. So you're going to have your left foot forwards, turn the right foot out, step forwards. Fixed step, you're not raising the toes or your heels. So the front foot stays pointing forwards. You can play around with the angle of the back foot until it feels comfortable to you. You shouldn't feel that you're having to, for instance, twist your knee. Ideally, you will face directly forwards, but particularly people who are new to this, but even people who are a bit more experienced, you may find your body's at a slight angle. If you do choose to correct that, correct it from the center of your body. Don't just twist your shoulders around, and make sure, once again, that you're not twisting your knees. If that doesn't work for you, then having your body at a slight angle isn't the end of the world. We want to correct it in the long run, but today might not be the right time to do that. Beginning to raise your toes and your heels. Taking that moment to settle, don't rush this. And when you feel you've got that sense of rooting down and the stability, bring the foot in, push out again, planting the foot. Notice that when I do this, because it's quite a difficult exercise, isn't it, to do this slowly. There's always a moment I settle. I'm not doing something like this, going back, and then thinking, well, I've got to bring the foot in. I've got time to consider this. It's not like walking down the road to the shops before it closes, but it can actually help that. We learn to be more settled, more grounded, more stable when we move. And then take a few steps through. Go forwards or backwards. It depends where you've got the space. So it's good to focus our attention on what's happening in the lower part of our body, because our attention naturally gravitates to the upper body. And we lose this sense of what's happening in the hips, in the center, the legs, and the feet, and everything that goes with that, including that feeling of being grounded, of being centered. Change in direction. Okay, and shake out. So when we bring the upper body back into the movement, when we bring the arms into the movement, they will tend to distract us. Just be aware of that. And again, as you settle down each time the weight moves, just return your attention to your feet. Start with your weight in the back foot. So left foot is forward, so you're mirroring my movement. From the side, I go forwards. As I settle into the front foot, release the hips, my arms swing through, and then same idea going back. It's called fisherman casting. And that wave-like rising energy from the ground now flows up through my back and out through my arms very smoothly. Okay, so you're moving through water. Coming into the front foot, turn to your left, so you swing your arms out. This is wind blows the roots. So the back foot, turning short. Body contracting, expanding, contracting, expand. Good. Same two movements. Your left foot forward, starting with fisherman cast the net. And again, remember this image of moving through water. This time as you go forward, you settle into the front leg and turn into wind blows. I mean, notice with that pattern of expansion and contraction, the breathing just begins to naturally harmonize with the movement. Combining this with the step in that we just did. I'm going to go forwards because that's where my space is, but you can do this going back as well. Bring the foot in and then step out. This is dragonfly skims the water. What you may find, by no means necessary, but you bring your foot in and then you can just raise your knee, rotate your hip. Remember, it's gravity pulling down through your hips. It's going to keep you stable and upright, not straining in your shoulders or your arms, your back. Difficult to do. And then change in direction. In time, we learn not to strain, and that stability comes not from fighting against gravity, but from this harmonization with gravity. And then bring it over. For the closing exercise, we come back to the parallel stance. The exercise is called Embrace Tiger, Return to Mountain. Kind of pointing us at this idea that we don't necessarily maintain these qualities the whole time, but we have the potential to come back. The mountain is one of the images that we use for these qualities of central equilibrium. So from here, once again, letting the hips drop down, pushing up. It starts a little bit like wild goose, but this time you bring your arms around as though you're going to hold a ball against your chest. Draw your hands in and then settle down again. And one of the things we can do with this is to, again, just identify what it is for us that brings us back to the mountain. Possibly just that idea of coming back to the mountain, the image of the mountain, or some sensation of movement for our hips or our back. And again, this is something that potentially we can take with us out of the session into our daily lives. Just be the memory of how it can feel. One more time. And always, thank you very much. I enjoyed that. I hope you did too. So thank you very much for watching.